Hi there, Keith Downing presenting for Group 3 on Chapter 23, Protecting the Deployment Pipeline. It's for the extra credit assignment on Lesson 13. Integrate security and compliance in a change approval process. Effective change management policies will recognize that there are different risks associated with different types of changes, and those changes are all handled differently. These processes are defined in the ITIL, which breaks down into 3 categories. Standard changes. These are low-risk changes that follow an established and approved process, but can also be pre-approved. They include monthly updates of application tax tables or country codes, website content and styling changes, and certain types of application or operating system patches that have a well-understood impact. The change proposer does not require approval before deploying the change, and change deployments can completely be automated and should be logged so there is traceability. Normal changes. These are higher risk changes that require review or approval from the agreed upon change authority. In many organizations, this responsibility is inappropriately placed on the Change Advisory Board, CAB, or Emergency Advisory Board, ECAB, which may lack the required expertise to understand the full impact of the change, often leading to unacceptably long lead times. This problem is especially relevant for large code deployments, which may contain hundreds of thousands or even millions of lines of code, submitted by hundreds of developers over the course of several months. In order for normal changes to be authorized, the CAB will almost certainly have a well-defined request for change, RFC, form that defines what information is required for the go, no-go decision. The RFC form usually includes the desired business outcomes, plan utility and warranty, a business case with risk and alternatives, and a proposed schedule. Urgent changes. These are emergency and consequently potentially high-risk changes that must be put into production immediately, e.g. urgent security patch or restore service as an example. These changes often require senior management approval, but allow documentation to be performed after the fact. A key goal of DevOps practices is to streamline our normal change process such that it is also suitable for emergency changes. Recategorize the majority of our lower risk changes as standard changes. Ideally, by having a reliable deployment pipeline in place, we will have already earned a reputation for fast, reliable, and non-dramatic deployments. At this point, we should seek to gain agreement from operations and the relevant change authorities that our changes have been demonstrated to be low risk enough to be defined as standard changes. Pre-approved by the CAB. This enables us to deploy into production without need for further approval, although the changes should still be properly recorded. Even when our changes are categorized as standard changes, they still need to be visual and recorded in our change management system. By doing this, everyone in our organization, DevOps or not, will have visibility into our changes in addition to all the other changes happening in the organization. What to do when changes are categorized as normal changes. For those changes that we cannot get classified as standard changes, they will be considered normal changes and will require approval from at least a subset of the CAB before deployment. In this case, our goal is still to ensure that we can deploy quickly even if it is not fully automated. Because our submitted changes will be manually evaluated by people, it is even more important that we describe the context of the change. This includes identifying why we are making the change, e.g. providing a link to the features, defects, or incidents, who is affected by the change, and what is going to be changed. Reduce reliance on separation of duty. For decades, we have used separation of duty as one of our main primary controls to reduce the risk of fraud or mistakes in the software development process. It has been the accepted practice in most SDLCs to require developer changes to be submitted to a code librarian who would review and approve the changes before IT operations promoted the change into the production. Consequently, wherever possible, we should avoid using separation of duties as a control. Instead, we should choose controls such as pair programming, continuous inspection of code check-ins, and code review. These controls can give us the necessary reassurance about the quality of our work. Furthermore, by putting these controls in place, if separation of duties is required, we can show that we achieve equivalent outcomes with the controls we have created. Ensure documentation improved for auditors and compliance officers. As technology organizations increasingly adopt DevOps patterns, there is more tension than ever between IT and audit. These new DevOps patterns challenge traditional thinking about auditing, controls, and risk mitigation. As Bill Shen, a principal security solutions architect at Amazon Web Services, observes, DevOps is all about bridging the gap between dev and ops. In some ways, the challenge of bridging the gap between DevOps and auditors and compliance officers is even larger. For instance, how many auditors can read code and how many developers have read NIST 800-37 or the Graham-Leach-Lilly Act? That creates a gap of knowledge, and the DevOps community needs to help bridge that gap. To help bridge that gap, he has teams work with auditors in the control design process. They use an iterative approach by assigning a single control for each sprint to determine what is needed in terms of audit evidence. This has helped ensure that auditors get the information they need when the services is in production entirely on demand. In conclusion, information security is everyone's job. We can improve the effectiveness of our controls. We significantly reduce the work associated with preparing and passing compliance audits. This is Keith Downing concluding Chapter 23, presentation for group number 3. Thank you.